I'm Joanna Moffat, and this is Next, a weekly vlog where I talk about singing and what's coming up next. You can click here to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Joanna Moffat Soprano, JohannaMoffitt Soprano, or you can follow me on Twitter at Joanna Moffat or on Instagram. This week in my musical life, Candide rehearsals began. I was so excited to be back in the room with those people at Music Theater Works, that was formerly Light Opera Works, that I did Deflator Mouse with back in December. A bunch of my friends from that cast are in this cast. I got to see them all, and that was so much fun. I'm so excited to get to spend time with them and get to act and sing with them again. Coming up next, I have more Candide rehearsals for the entire month of May. We've been doing music rehearsals so far, so we're going to delve into staging coming up. It should be really great. The Pangloss was out of town because he's under contract, so it'll be really cool to meet him and see what he brings to the table. Cast is pretty young so far, so I'm curious to see how they delve into those darker, dirtier, grittier parts of their characters. It should be interesting to watch. My second coaching with the Lycée School comes this weekend. I'm very excited. Like I said before, it's really fun to work with young singers and to help foster their musicianship and excitement about singing and their confidence, because I think that that's what was most important to me as a young singer, and I really look forward to working with them because it was fun. It was so much fun. The Mother's Day brunch is still in the works. We are going to be performing on the 14th from 10 to 1, and it should be a great time. My mom is coming. Can't wait to see her and sing some songs to her. I've been requested to sing the Habanera from Carmen, as well as Sempre Libera. So I know those two arias are totally separate. I'm really excited to get to sing them. It's fun to do shows where you kind of do some of the greatest hits of opera, and I'm going to do some greatest hits Italian songs, and it should be a good time. And if you want to make a reservation, the phone number is 312-861-1100. Tell them that I sent to you, and I'm excited. I get to sing what I love for people that I love. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who wrote in and commented on my post on Facebook about the subject of dating. I asked a few questions about what it's like to date opera singers, or what it's like as opera singers to be in relationships or to date other people. So just in case you missed that, here is a quick recap of those questions.
Are you in serious relationships, or are you dating, or just casual? Tell me about that. How long has this been going on for? What do your partners or your dates do for a living? What's their occupation? What are they passionate about? In what ways do they support you in your career? And what compromises do you feel like you have to make for your career in order to make the relationships work?
So as far as comments, I posted a Facebook, what are your experiences dating opera singers? And that was all I posted. And I got, oh gosh, a ton of responses. And some of them I thought were really fun, and some of them were funny, and some of them were a little more, but I thought I would read some of them just to give you an idea of what kind of responses people gave. First, of course, was my friend Rob, who is married to a really wonderful lady who is an opera singer. They met at Indiana University, where I went to school. That's where I met both of them. He said, use caution. It may lead to 12 years of marriage and 2 kids. A friend of mine who's an opera director wrote that it's flirtatious and fun, sometimes funny, sometimes tragic, almost always short-lived. So basically just like operas themselves. An opera singer friend of mine wrote that he just doesn't understand how to stop doing it. He doesn't know how to not date other artists, which I thought was kind of fascinating, because I have trouble meeting and dating artists, but some of my artist friends can't seem to date people who aren't artists. So a really great one from my friend Marilyn, who's an opera singer, also married to an opera singer, wrote, She married one. I don't regret it. You have to be very good at compromise and not someone who gets really upset if anniversaries, honeymoons, date nights, etc. aren't always observed because rehearsal schedules are a bitch. I have more I could say, but they mostly pertain to a long-term relationship with another singer. That seems to be a few steps ahead of what you're at. Got a couple of jokes about high notes. Thanks, Greg. On the negative side, it seemed to be that more people were worried about separation. You know, there's a lot of time spent apart when you're both performing. And I think that that's a big concern for people who are not opera singers as well. It seems that the idea of a home life is something that, you know, we don't get in the more traditional sense as performers. So when you're out performing on the road and all that stuff, you know, you are out having fun and traveling and meeting new people, but you don't necessarily have that experience of coming home to your partner and, you know, there's a home cooked meal and you are watching a movie late at night or reading a book or whatever it is that normal people do. I'm sure those are things that they do, right? Okay. My friend Renelle wrote, being the singer in a relationship with a muggle, not sure if this counts, but I personally know that while I'm sure I could have a steamy physical relationship with a singer, in no world would I ever want to be in a partnership with one. Instrumentalists would be pushing it. I prefer something completely different. I have to say that my personal experience has been the same so far, that my best relationships have been with non-singers, non-musicians. Well, non-musicians. My relationships with singers have been non-existent, so. My friend Anne says, I think there's something to be said for dating somebody who understands what your life looks like or is potentially going to look like. I've sometimes found it hard to relate to non-musicians, or at least non-professional musicians, and sometimes they don't understand where I'm coming from. My longest relationship was with a trombonist, and it worked because we were both on weird, not exactly 9-to-5 schedules, which is something that I can completely understand. I think a good correlation would be to dating someone in the service industry or a doctor or something like that who's like on call or whatever. They could rush out in the middle of dinner. So the last one I'll read is from my friend Diana. She says she met Dan and started dating him in undergrad in 2001. They've been married for 10 years. This August. They have one kid and one on the way. They both decided that they didn't want to travel as much and made an artistic home for themselves in Chicago. Both very supportive when either of them go for a few days on a gig. He's her best friend and they're both on the same page. They've grown together and check in with each other. It's not always easy, but it works for them. So that's interesting. My questions might be too simple for what I'm trying to get at. Like, I'm trying to figure out what makes those relationships work and what makes them not work, you know? In my experience, every time a relationship doesn't work, it's because the other person is interested in my opera singing very shallowly. You know, it's an interesting and fun career on the surface, but when you start to get to know a person and see the amount of work that they're putting in and how much time they have to put in, it's sometimes daunting or intimidating. I have a more detailed response from an opera singer friend who's married to another opera singer, so I'm going to delve into her response. She says, yes, she is super mega married. They had been close friends for 2 years. Then they dated for 2 years, 8 months of engagement, and then 7 years of marriage. Her partner is mostly a full-time performer, but he also teaches adjunct at a college in the area and privately. He's a great and supportive and lovely person. But if he has the show at the same time that she does with an A company, his life basically belongs to them, which is true of any opera singer anywhere. Because when you work with an A-level company, like something like the Lyric, you are in rehearsals like you would be in a 9-to-5 job. She says he's as supportive as he can be within the confines of his job. She says she's the one who decided to go back to school and get her teaching certificate. It was important to her to be able to provide insurance for her family. He out-earns her in money, but she provides the insurance all of the time. She also coordinates babysitters when they need them and provides childcare when he's in rehearsals, usually solo parents in the summer because she's teaching during the rest of the year. It sounds to me like the two of them have really solid communication and have figured out who does what in the relationship. And I think that that's probably key to making any relationship work, let alone a singer's relationship, where you're balancing crazy schedules maybe and trying to make sure that each person has a fulfilling career. I really applaud them for doing what they do, because I can't imagine trying to balance two people's passionate careers, although it is really pleasing to think about coming home and being able to talk about your rehearsal with the other person, because they'll understand what you went through for the last 5 hours. You know, it is really hard to try to explain to someone who doesn't have any investment in the music industry what it means to go out on auditions, what it means to not hear back from a company, or what it means to have not gotten it that year and maybe you'll try a different tactic next year, or maybe you won't audition for that company next year, but you'll audition for another one that's similar. That's gotta be tough. I have another story from an opera singer friend of mine about dating another opera singer and a showmance that they had. We call it a showmance, a romance that happens during a show. And it's pretty interesting, so I'm just gonna read what he wrote verbatim. It was your typical opera showmance. Tenor boy meets baritone boy. Tenor falls for baritone. Baritone enjoys tenor. Both boys come out to their families during their relationship. Tenor boy, me, slowly starts to realize that baritone boy has not found himself yet and cannot reciprocate the affection that tenor boy is offering. Baritone boy invites tenor boy to lunch after 3 months at Panera. Tells tenor boy, I'll never love you. So tenor boy thanks baritone boy for the lovely Caesar salad and leaves. He says after that, I cannot tell you how enjoyable it was to have my partner be a singer. We spent so many nights discussing music. I loved every rehearsal that I got to hear him sing. I loved knowing he was watching me when I was performing. And by gosh, we exchanged some of the best poetry I've read thus far. But at the same time, nothing was new between us. I didn't get to introduce someone to my passion because it was already his own. And thank goodness we weren't both tenors or both baritones. I think that would have been disastrous. But I'm so thankful for that spring when I had a showmance and the life lessons it taught me about respecting myself. I dated someone for a while who would come to my shows, and that was the first time I ever felt like the person that I was dating was really interested in what I was doing as an opera singer, or in musical theater, because I do musical theater too. And it was incredible. I never felt that kind of support before. I never had been so happy to see another person, you know, sitting out there in the audience, like watching me, waiting for me, and talking to him afterwards, picking his brain about what he thought about the different little nuances. And he wasn't a singer. That's the crazy part about it. He wasn't an artist of any kind. He just really loved what I did and really took care to show me that he did. And that was incredible. And I would want that in any serious relationship I've ever in. There is nothing like having the person who you spend most of your time with loving the thing that you love more than anything as much as you do. Because how else can you make it a priority if the person that you're with doesn't? I don't know. I thought that story would be a good one to end with. This week I challenge you to think further, and if you are in a relationship, please delve into those things that really make it work. And for us in our non-relationship, think about your relationships with your friends that you're really close with, and how you support each other, and what shows you go to, and you know, what do you do to show your love for another person? I mean, these are important questions, guys. That's all I have for this week. See you on Monday next.